Welcome to my review of this 70-mi dual dashcam system. This is the Dashcam Pro Plus A500S model, which is a very capable dual dashcam that has all the right features at a very accessible price point. This video will be rather comprehensive, so feel free to skip to whatever section you might be interested in. This particular dashcam is a fully upgraded version of their best-selling Dashcam Pro. So if you have that dashcam and are looking to upgrade, this one adds dual channel recording, built-in GPS, and a wider language selection, which is nice since they operate in 103 countries. As you unbox it, you will immediately notice that nothing about the dashcam feels cheap. The dashcam itself is pretty small, which I like because it gives you more installation options and looks much cleaner. As you would expect, the lens rotates to support different windshield angles, the buttons have a nice tactile feel to them, and overall the design is simple and uncluttered. The rear-facing camera also has a minimalistic design and also has a rotating lens, and since typically its cable runs from the front of the car to the rear, it can be unplugged while you are running the cable through the cabin to ease the installation. So other than the SD card, everything is included to get going. You have very convenient electrostatic stickers that make installation and uninstallation easy and clean, spare 3M tape for both cameras, rear and front camera manuals, installation aid tool, the camera's main USB cable, a 12-volt car adapter with a port specifically for the camera, the front camera mount, and finally the rear camera installation cable long enough to support most vehicles. For your initial setup, you should have an SD card ready. The best camera in the world is no good without a high quality, high speed SD card. I can't stress enough how important it is to have a good micro SD card that is at least class 10 or higher. This dashcam supports up to 128 gigabytes, which is what I'm putting in it right now. With the card in, the camera starts recording right away. There are 4 navigational buttons. This first one toggles the camera's microphone on and off if the rear camera is not connected. If the rear camera is connected, it toggles between the front and rear camera view. This button starts an emergency video recording. The file generator gets put in a separate folder and does not get overwritten. That's useful if you see something along your route and you want to remember and easily find it again, since the dashcam can generate a lot of video files. The third button pulls up the album and allows you to navigate through your files and play them in camera. This is much easier using the app on your phone, but we'll cover that in a sec. And finally, this button is for your system settings. If you get into an accident, the G sensors in the camera will lock the video so that it doesn't get overwritten. The setting allows you to set the sensitivity, which I had to turn down because I was registering potholes on the road as accidents. You might have to experiment and turn this down as appropriate. Now, a dashcam is not a dashcam if it cannot protect you while you are parked. So parking mode is just a necessity. This feature can be enabled by using a hardwired kit. This is a separate purchase, but one I definitely recommend. The gist of this installation is very basic. You'll simply plug in these 3 cables at your fuse box. You have your ground, your switch, 12 volts or accessory, and your constant 12 volts, and that's it. The hardwired kit will only allow your battery to drop to 11.6 volts so that you can start your car. Before it gets to that, it will be fully functional in parking mode, which actually has 2 different modes. Your traditional parking mode, which uses the G sensor to detect an impact, and then it starts recording. And of course, that has the unfortunate consequence of not actually recording the impact itself, but what happens afterwards.
Entering time-lapse mode.
And for that reason, I much prefer time-lapse mode, which runs the entire time you are parked and snaps a picture once a second. When you play it in real time, it seems like the footage is unusable, but if you did need to dig into it, you can extract frame by frame to make out faces, car models, or license plates. And if your car is parked in your driveway, it can serve to protect your home as well. Unfortunately, it will not record the rear-facing camera in time-lapse mode, so make sure you orient your car properly when you're parked. This is true 24-hour surveillance that was added to this A500S model in October via firmware update. In September, the M300 model received improved image quality and a more sensitive G sensor to better detect shakes and collisions while parked. And I only mention this because it tells me that 70mi is actually using firmware updates to optimize products, which can't be said for every dashcam manufacturer. You can set video durations between 1 and 3 minutes before the camera generates a new file. I recommend 3 minutes for most users. If you go into the video storage, you will see 2 options, high compression and low compression. And something that might not be obvious is that depending on your choice, you will have different resolution options. Because I have low compression selected, my only option right now is 1920 by 1440. If I select high compression, that gives me these three options. In practice, I discerned little to no difference between high and low compression on 1920 by 1440, and since the aspect ratio is the same for all the resolutions, I would really recommend just leaving it set to the highest resolution at high compression. These were my results for a 1-minute video on each of the resolutions as far as file size goes. None of this should be an issue with a high capacity micro SD card. Make sure that you verify the refresh rate matches your country. If you live in North America and some parts of South America, you will go by 60 Hertz or NTSC. Elsewhere, you will likely be at 50 Hertz. WDR is wide dynamic range. This right here is the difference between the two. I recommend you just leave it on for most purposes, as the differences between bright and dark portions of the video will be reduced, creating better looking video. You have the option to turn off the speed and GPS display on your video, as well as change the display units. On system settings, the Wi-Fi hotspot turns Wi-Fi on and off. And you also have the option to have Wi-Fi turn on automatically every time the dash cam turns on. Turn audio recording on and off, and turn ADAS, which stands for Advanced Driver Assistance System, on and off. Once it's turned on, the camera walks you through the setup. You simply start driving until it calibrates, and once successful, all of the features will be enabled, and you'll be warned if the vehicle in front of you starts moving and you don't. Anytime you drift from your lane,
Lane departure.
or if a collision ahead is imminent.
Attention to the vehicle ahead.
Since the camera doesn't know if you have your turn signal on, every time you change lanes, it will beep at you, and anytime you get close to the car in front of you. I did find it very accurate, which is nice, but this is not a feature that I will be personally using, although I see how it could be useful for inexperienced drivers or if you're buying the dash cam for a teenager. The good thing is that you can turn each individual feature on and off from the menu as necessary. Your screensaver timeout shuts off the screen after a certain amount of time. It only shuts off the display. The dash cam will remain on. The dash cam speaker volume can be turned up or down. This setting right here, auto off when stopped, will be useful for those of you who use a dash cam with a cigarette lighter adapter if your particular car supplies voltage to it even when the car's off. The camera will know that you're stopped and then shut off after the time that you set here, and that prevents the dash cam from running indefinitely and draining your battery. System time, language, and date format are self-explanatory, while the driving duration alert will have the dash cam give you a prompt after you've been driving for a certain time. Scrolling right takes you to formatting your SD card, which you should do in camera anytime you put in a new SD card or if you're having issues. And if that doesn't work, then do a factory reset. Download app shows you a QR code for the app, and you have system update and info that shows you the current firmware. The first thing you should do when you get the dash cam is upgrade the firmware, and for that we need to install the 70My app from the App Store. After installation, you will have to create an account with 70My to use the app. Thankfully, it's a very quick process. Once you're in, scroll to select your dash cam from the list. Then on the dash cam itself, we are going to turn on the Wi-Fi hotspot. Once that's on, we have to connect to it from our phone. So simply go to your Wi-Fi settings and scroll to find the 70My network and select it. Then you're gonna enter the password shown on the dash cam to connect to it. Make sure that you give the dash cam all of the permissions that it needs to operate, or it might not work right. Follow the few safety prompts, and now we're in. Every single setting that we just covered can now easily be changed right from your phone. Now to update the firmware, while we're connected to our home Wi-Fi, we're gonna open the 70My app and log in, and then navigate to our profile up here. Then we're gonna go to My Devices, select our particular camera, and then click on Firmware Update. And if one is available, click on the Download button down here. Once it's downloaded, you have to connect your phone back to the camera's Wi-Fi. When that's done, back out all the way to your device selection screen, and the app will ask you if you want to push the update to the camera. So select push and simply wait until the update is done. It's important to not remove the power cable or mess with the camera during this process. Another thing to note is that the update will set your settings back to default, so if you changed anything, you will have to do it again. From the 70My app, it's much easier to check out your videos. You can scroll to any video you might be interested in reviewing and play it right on your phone's larger screen. There's minimal lag, so it's pretty responsive. If you want, from here you can download the video in full size to your phone as well. And one of my favorite features is the GPS logging of your route. If you back out, you will see this driver route data synchronization button. If you click on that, the route data from your dash cam gets copied to the phone. This doesn't go by individual video. This goes by the entire trip. So from the time that you turn on your car until you turn it off, all of your trips will be here. Now, remember at this point, our Wi-Fi is still connected to the camera's Wi-Fi. So because this particular feature uses online maps, if you click on view the route and select one, the screen will be blank. And that's important to remember, otherwise you might think that something is wrong. Simply back out to the previous screen, go to your Wi-Fi settings and connect to a Wi-Fi network with internet. When you come back, you will now see your driving data on a map, which you can manipulate with your fingers as needed. You can even play it to see the route as it played out in real time. If you want to save the video, you can click on save and share the video down here. The app actually has a built-in screen recorder that will save the route to your phone's memory in video form. The front-facing camera is certainly nice at this price point with the sensor outsourced to Sony. So it's equipped with a Sony IMX335 image sensor that provides an aperture of f1.8, which is great from daytime to nighttime recording. You can see that aperture in action here. These scenes were recorded well after dark, but the light from the headlights and the street lamps are enough to allow you to see clearly what's going on when combined with the camera's dynamic noise reduction and wide dynamic range. This is definitely usable nighttime footage. I wish they supplied a circular polarizing filter to dramatically clean up the windshield reflections that you will inevitably get. I would gladly buy that accessory if it were available. The rear-facing camera does a much better job during the day than at night. It's much less important than the front-facing camera, so I'm okay with this, especially if it keeps the dual dash cam price reasonable. I was pleased to know that 70mi has been around since 2016, and they've since grown to an industry-leading car electronics company. They have their own R&D department, supply chains, and factories, so they can provide high-quality, full-feature products at a very reasonable price point. Indeed, if you visit their website, which I'll link below, you'll see that their products are very aesthetically pleasing, for which they've won IF and Red Dot awards, and they range from beginner budget-oriented offerings to premium 4K dashcams with driver assist features. This Dashcam Pro Plus has its feet in both camps, being both budget-friendly while also offering some of those high-end features. And although it's not a 4K camera, I would rather they supply a native high-quality resolution rather than upscale a lower resolution camera to 4K, which always leads to degraded video quality, and it's just a gimmick. At this price point, this is a fantastic dash cam with a simple menu system and every feature you might want without being bloated, and one that I would gladly recommend. So check out the link in the video description. Let me know in the comments section if you have any lingering questions, and I will do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next video. Take care.